Well, there's some poles and some fresh cement and some electrical conduit up in my front yard. I wonder what's going on. Stay tuned. Let's check it out. Doc Zwei here once again, and welcome back. Um, this video is going to be about installation of another empty solar mount. I know I said my next video was going to be about wiring on the vertical array, and that video is coming, and I've been collecting some data, comparing it to another string on one of my other mounts. But this video is going to be about the adjuster design I came up with. I did not buy the adjusters from MT Solar this time. I assume they're going to probably be about $700 for a pair of them. And, you know, I just haven't been happy with that adjuster design since day one, even when I bought a brand new mount. And, you know, I added the braces. So this adjuster used in combination with the braces, I think, is the answer. And, you know, I'm putting it out there. And if you want to use it, that's your choice. It's not that hard to fabricate one of these mounts. You know, it takes a little skill welding, you know, but you could probably hire it for having a lot of it done. You know, I mean, it just depends on what your skill set is and what you're comfortable with. But it can be done. You know, it's not that hard. I hope you enjoy this video. I'll have more commentary at the end, but let's get started, and you'll see what I did this time. So I'm here in my back shed, and on my trailer here I have two I-beams I had the local welding shop order for me. These are 8x10 I-beams. Basically, they're about 3/16 web in them, a wall. And the reason they're called 8x10 is they're 8 inches tall, and they weigh 10 pounds per foot. Okay. These are 20 foot long. They cost me about $160, which is pretty cheap considering what you got. So I'm going to show you here how to kind of build a mount like this. I have enough rails, but I have another smaller 6-inch tall I-beam array that I'm going to use for something else. But I wanted to build a array that was 6 panels wide and 4 panels tall and 2 poles. And I got the poles and I already cut them off. Basically, I'm going to take one wing and weld it on one end of this I-beam here. That'll give me a section that'll be 23 3/4 feet long. And then I'll be able to bolt my 7.5 foot long piece in my other wing that's 3 3/4. So basically, I just got to weld it together, drill my holes here for my two rectangular tubing that go to my pivot, and that's it. That's all there is to it. So let's get started. So what I got here is I took my I-beam here, and I take one of the MT Solar wings that are 3.75 feet long, and weld it here onto my 21 foot long I-beam. And I'm getting ready here to paint it. These will be my two main beams on one side, and then I'll make the rest of it up with the MT Solar mount. So what I got here is the two beams that form the center structure here on the MT Solar mount. These two big holes here are where the 4-inch pipe is, the pivot is bolted in the center, and then these two would be where your adjuster would go to, okay? These actually were bent a little bit from the tornado. They had a bow to them, so I put them in my shop press and straightened them out. And I actually went over a little bit, but they'll work. Now, these are 4 gauge sidewall, or basically almost 3/16. And the other mount I had was only a 6-inch I-beam, and those had about a 10 gauge sidewall, and, you know, about 1/8 of an inch. And I decided to make 2 new ones. I had the material laying around. These are made out of, I believe it's 3x5 rectangular tubing. And on the end here, we have these nuts here and a plate. So I've been making some plates to put in the end here, and I'll show you how I made those. So what the factory used was a 3/4 inch bolt here. So I got some 3/4 inch flange nuts. And this is 2.5 inch wide bar stock. Basically, I'm drilling an 1/8 inch hole here. Then I'm tapering it a little bit using a step drill on the backside, getting my nut started, pressed in there, and then finishing it out. I don't plan on welding this side, I don't think. I think I'll just weld the backside, but I'm using a flange nut. The idea behind that is, of course, you can't pull through the plate, and then I just weld all the way around it. We don't ever want that coming loose. So I got to clip the corners off here, so it fits down the corners of the rectangular tubing, and get those welded in. And this part will be done after a little bit of paint, and I'll be ready to start bolting it all together. So to weld these on in there, I'm just using a piece of scrap here. It's a piece of cast. I just run my bolt on in, run my nut down tight, and then I can just set it on in here and tack my four corners and pull the plate out and finish welding it all up. Works pretty good. So a little bit later, it'll clean up with the flat disc, and that's what it should look like. I already got the other end done, so moving on to the next one, and then I got to go drill my holes for my center pivot, and these will be getting prepped for paint. So this is the center pivot of the mount. These mounts, of course, have been in a tornado, as I mentioned before. If you look here, you can see this bolt has got a little angle to it, and what it is, it's bent here on the end. There's a nut here, and then your two rectangular tubing bolt to the end here, okay? So I start bolting it together, and I'm like, I don't want to start on the nut, So I'm like, what's going on here? And then I noticed here that it's bent. So if I can't get it here with a sledge, I'll have to go put it in the shop press and get that straightened out, and then I can finish getting these in. So this is how far I've gotten along here. Some of it you've seen in the other videos, but I got my string line on here. I'm adjusting this joint and this joint. So I don't have to do the other end. That's all one big long piece. I'm not buying any adjusters for this one, so I just made up a little bracket here using a muffler clamp and a piece of flat to hold it here from tipping. And I'll show you what I'm going to use for an adjuster later. So, it's coming along here. We're moving right along, so it won't be long, and I'll be hanging rails. So when I get done here setting all these rails for straightness, then I got to exit. And if you see my other videos, you'll know the process. For those of you who watch my other videos, you know what this is. This is the brake rotor here, the hat off one, and I'm cutting some more tops for my poles. So it's raining here a little bit this morning, so I want to get these done and get these painted, because if I got time here, it quits raining, I'm going to get some rails hung and maybe start raising up the array. So the other day I got rails on and got it raised up here and fastened all down. So today we got the string across here and getting ready to at least get these brackets tacked down here. Wind's blowing pretty good, so we'll see how things go. But hopefully I get them welded on, and then I can get my braces on, and then I got to figure out how my adjusters go on here. So it was pretty windy out there, and I wanted to explain what I was doing here. So I've got a string strung in between the both poles there. And basically what I'm doing, I'm establishing a reference line here. It's parallel to the center of my two poles. And I'm welding a pipe there. You can see it there. It's being held there by a red magnet. And I'm holding it up there. I'm going to weld it to the pole, and I want it on the center line between both poles, see? And that string gives me a reference point to measure off of, so I can get my pipe welded in there parallel or on the center line of the two poles, okay? So just wanted to explain what I was doing there. And it's pretty windy out there, and that's why my voice sounds kind of funny in there, because I edited the wind noise out. But anyway, I got that job done and turned out really well. So basically same thing I always do. Conduit comes up, make my own U-bolts using uni-struts to attach it. Got expansion joints. The only thing I did different here is in the box, just running breakers, and I'm putting my surge protection on the other end. A pair of IMOs and the big Myers hub here now. I'm putting some caulk there. And of course it just runs up on my weather head. And I'm finishing up my wiring here, okay? Now I'm going to move on to the adjusters here, and we'll get started on that. Being the other thing worked out so good on the other one, I did the same thing here. Just made a little bracket, holding the back of my IMOs. On the back side here, I had to turn these here in order to make it work to the side, but hey, it all worked out, all right? As far as my winch here, it just sits here. I made this bracket here, welded it on. Same thing with my brace, and these holes here are drilled out to 9/16, and I'm just using a 1/2-inch bolt. So basically when you crank it here, you don't ever let go of this crank. The other one will fall down. You make sure you turn your dog right. So basically what I got here is when I put my rails on, everything was all centered. You put your panels on and you're slightly tipped. It makes it biased to the front, which is what you want. So you want to slide them on away to the front. When you're lowering down, it'll kind of follow. As you're going up, it'll kind of follow, but you'll still want to go back and forth and turn a few cranks I got my pin out, everything's loose, so I'm getting ready to here let it down. I don't know how it'll work here with me holding the phone, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, I got my dog set the other way, and I'm cranking, I'm letting it out on the top, and as you can see, I'm coming down on my brace here. All right. So one side's feeding, the other side ain't, okay? And the other end will actually be feeding. I'll show it here. See, it's following on the other end. You know, you just don't get too carried away with it. You know? Just take it slow, and it'll work just fine. All right, the tension's going to be on your back side is where it's going to be. The other thing you got to worry about, you know, the other end's following along, so you know you got slack cable on that one side. By the way, anybody looking for a flatbed trailer, I got a tilt one sitting there for sale. Cheap. Maybe by the time this video comes out, it'll be sold. Alright, so we're getting here where the winter angle is. Oh, I gotta come back, so I'll be right back. Yeah, it's kind of a two-handed job. I had to flip my dog over, but I can get my pin on in there, and then I'll go do the other one, and then when I'm done, then I'll tighten it up so this cable here is tight. I got to finish tightening this all up. I'm putting my extra cable on here. I have it long enough so I can run it, put my array horizontal. Okay. This other cable is long enough so I can tilt it vertical. So when I hung my panels, we were able to tilt it vertical, and then I was able to tip it up, but I only had about 2 wraps. What you want when you start is you really want a full set of wraps almost across on your winch here. Okay. And that way, it won't pull out. So all I did here is flip my dog over, and then of course I put my tension on my other cable. I've been just putting a nut here, spinning it on there. I'm just using a 1/2-inch bolt. It's cheap, you know, holes 9/16. Works out good. When I'm done, then I just tighten up my set screw here, and that way this is all locked in. I can't even move it now because I've got it in compression here with my cable tightened up. I will give you a word of advice. If you buy these stainless steel ones here at Harbor Freight, those are for 1/4 inch, and their cable is 7/32 or something like that. So I bought some 3/16 ones at my local hardware store, stainless, of course. But what I've been doing with these is I've been tripling them up. This one's actually going to get moved down to here, and I've been putting my excess cable down here and storing it, you know, and that way if I want to go horizontal, wherever I got it there. So to make a pair of these double spool, and you can buy a double spool if you don't want to make them, but I bought these Harbor Freight ones. They're $28 a piece. I bought 3 of them, and I took one of them all apart, and I robbed the one side flange here. This is the one that had the ring gear on it. I took the ring gear off, and it's a little tricky. They got a weld on the inside here, and then there's like 2 plug welds there. You got to get them out. And then the other one is just the other flange. Basically, you can, for the one you're going to part out, you can cut the shaft off and almost drill that out if you have to. As far as cutting the ones you know, and you want to save the shaft, I end up using a 7-inch grinder. They welded on the inside, and I use a 7-inch cutoff wheel and the hand grinder, and got in there and got as much of it off as I could. This one I did a pretty good job on. And get it down about as flat as you can get it, and then I put it in the press, and that would break the rest of the weld. On this one here, I just pressed the side all the way up as far as I needed it. Kept it pretty square, put a spacer in there. I think it's 7/8 on this one. And welded it in, then just slid my next piece on, made sure that my bolt here cleared the frame on the side, and welded that, tacked it in, and then took it all apart and welded that up. This one here, I think I used an inch spacer, and then again, made sure that my bolt clears on my frame, and tacked that one in, and good to go. So one cable's got to be wound one way, and the other cable's got to be wound the other way. That way, when you tighten up one, it loosens the other, okay? You know, like I said, you can buy them, but they're probably, I think, $150 a piece. I decided to go this route instead of the MT Solar adjuster. They're probably pushing $350 or more now. I noticed they do not list them on their website anymore. And I just decided, you know what, I want to try something different this time. And I actually might like it, you can actually tip that array almost by hand. It doesn't take that much to tip it. And if you put the braces in there with the galvanized pipe like I have in the one video, you don't have to worry about it anyway. And what you do is you'll crank your winch back down and put pressure against the brace, and it's not going to move. So I actually think it's a better setup, but time will tell. We'll see how it works out. So I was doing some digging around on the internet, and you can buy a double spool winch, but you're not going to find one that has a handle on the side. Every one of them I found has a worm drive. And of course, the purpose behind that is when you stop cranking, it'll hold in that position. Now, the problem with that is, and I looked at it from several different angles, you have to come up with some way of turning that crank. Now, some of them have a crank mount on the top, and that ain't going to work up next to a pole. The second one you see has got like, it's like a half ring on the top, and it's made to hook a crank to it. And you could probably use like a ratchet or something like that to adjust it. And I did see those priced as low as about $48, but they're probably charging a $40 shipping, because you go over on eBay and somebody's selling that same winch for like $80 or $90, shipped. So they're out there, but for what I wanted a crank on the side like this, and so I made up my own. Now, we did measure it out here. Now, the total travel of this is going to be 3 feet of cable, basically for your adjustment between 15 degrees and 60 degrees. And I measured it here, and as you can see, there's a black mark there, and we pulled all the cable off, and I ran it with a full wrap around the shaft, and then on the second wrap, then I measured it and see how many turns it took to move it 1.5 feet each way from the center, see? And basically it was 4 complete turns of the drum to move that 1.5 feet. So basically you're going to work off that center 1.5 feet one way, and you're going to work off that center 1.5 feet the other way, because one cable is going to be your slack line, and the other cable is going to be your pull line when you're moving it. So, but I don't see that being an issue. And when you put your brace in there, and of course you put your pin in, then you'll crank your pull line back down to lock your pin in there, and the other line can have a slight amount of slack in it. It's not going to bother anything, because you're actually putting your brace into compression. So anyway, I'll get these installed, and you'll see them in the video. So I made a pair of brackets here to hold the adjusters. Used my old brake rotor hat to cut the radius again, and got them gusseted, cleaned all up, ready for install. Just waiting on the weather here to clear up. It's got a little light rain going, and wind's blowing good. So the weather clears up, I'll get these on the poles and move on to the next step. So yeah, a few things here. Every time I went to weld here on the poles, I went and blow about 100 miles an hour, and I could stick welded it, but I'm not a very good upside down stick welder. So I'd wait. So when I had the skid loader sitting there with the welder, I waited all day until the wind died down in the evening to weld that, and then when I welded the brackets on for the winches, I ended up doing that at about 6:30 in the morning on Saturday morning. But it's the way things go. As far as the worm drive winches, the problem with those is you're going to have to go back and forth between poles and keep adjusting them. They will not follow, so keep that in mind if you decide you want to go with a worm drive winch, because you don't want to have to fabricate something, But hey, that's your choice, So me, I think this worked out really well. It does follow going on up, but I do walk back and forth just to keep my cable from making a bird's nest, So maybe you'll want to stick with the worm drive. I don't know. That's your choice. On the Weaver boxes, I mentioned putting in caulk there at the Myers hub, and the reason why is I had one Weaver box. They're, of course, made out of mild steel. They powder coat it, and it rusted around the Myers hub hole, and it's not a good situation. It actually got some water in there on my surge protection, and I discovered it here a while back when I was running some other conduit in that box. And that's going to be part of another video, of course. But, that's not a good situation. A regular NEMA 4 box, the big names, those are made out of a harder material. I don't know if you've ever tried cutting one, but they're made out of some pretty hard stuff. And they coat it with something, and it won't rust like that. And when I saw it, I'm like, it really rusted. It's not a good situation. Word of advice, buy stainless. I had bought some stainless here for the vertical array for the wiring on that, and you'll see that in that video. And they actually were a very nice box. I actually like the sealing on the bolts in the back better. Yeah, go with the stainless. I think you'll be a lot happier. I got a feeling all these mild steel boxes that are Weaver, I'm going to end up changing them all. I'm really disappointed there. I'm not very happy. I got a feeling the one that I had trouble with here, I'll probably end up changing that out next spring or next summer. As far as everything else, I have it wired up to the house, and the SPDs are on that, and I'll maybe show that in another video. I don't know if I will or not, but problem I have is I don't have anything in the house connected to, so I'm not able to pull anything off that array yet, but I might redneck some stuff quick and hook it up just so I can get some power off of it, because we're in the winter and I could use the power. So as far as the hole here, I know I mentioned it here. I think I said an 1/8 hole when I was putting the flange nut in that plate. It was an 1 1/8 hole, and then I press it in with the shop press through that hole and then weld it on in, just to make sure somebody didn't see that and think, hey, you said an 1/8 hole. Well, it ain't gonna fit there. So anyway, I got more content coming. If you like what you see here, hit the like and subscribe button. Until the meantime, catch some rays, and we'll see you later.